you were telling me that Heart of Darkness is a book that you really love, but it's also one that I think has a sort of a complex relationship to African literature and for African readers, perhaps.
Yes, it does. Chinua Achebe wrote an essay about Conrad, specifically on Heart of Darkness, and about what he called Conrad the racist in that book. That the Africans who featured in the book were voiceless in their own stories, or in a story that was supposed to be about them. They had no voices, and that caused some controversy, as you might expect. And even for me, an African who loved or still loves Heart of Darkness, it raised some interesting questions when I read the book, and I think those are questions every reader has to go into the book to find for themselves. What was Conrad trying to achieve in Heart of Darkness, and did he achieve it? And what do you think his views in the book were raises? I think those are questions everyone has to find out for themselves. But the book itself, being what it is very well written. It's a book that uses color, and when I say color, I mean emotional color, and uses styles. I mean literary styles that where there's a story within a story, and I can't find the words to recommend this book enough. But it's a small book, but it packs a well up, and it's a book I recommend to this reader.
Yeah. Now, for somebody who wants to maybe get into African literature a little bit more, who are some African authors that you would recommend? Chinua Achebe is of course a necessary starting point, I think. But after that, who are some other writers that you think that anybody who wants to know what's going on in African literature that they should be reading?
There's a young Nigerian writer who's writing now, who's not known in the West yet. His name is Agosa Imaswen. He wrote a novel last year called Fine Boys. That's a book I recommend for any reader who's interested in finding out about contemporary Nigerian. There's another writer who I usually forget mentioning because I love him so much. He's part of my, idea of African literature, but I realize not many people outside Africa have heard of him. That's Usman Sembene. He wrote a book called God's Bits of Wood in the 60s. That's very, it's a touchstone for African literature. It's a point, it's one of the ways to enter African literature. There's also there are the usual suspects. You've mentioned Chinua Achebe. There's the young, brilliant writer Chimamanda Adichie. I'm trying to remember. There's Miyakuto, who's a Mozambican writer, and you should read anything he writes. He's an experimental. I don't want to use the term experimental, but I can't find any other term to describe what he does. But he's an intellectually challenging writer to read, but also rewarding.